All right, welcome to Porch Light for the Prodigal. My name is Charli Turner. This is my husband Lucas. He's joining us today. Payton, my son, and today we also have Dustin with us, who is one of our marketing guys at Foundation School. Today we're really excited to share a little bit about our trip to Phoenix. We went to the AmeriFest 2025. It was a pretty amazing trip, and we just kind of want to share some of our insights and a little bit about the trip. And so we're going to talk about that today. So, what do you think? What was the experience like?
Well, it was a lot more amazing than I expected. So what I was expecting to go to was a political event where I see eye to eye with people politically, but what we saw was a Jesus revival. Everybody giving it to Jesus versus focusing on themselves, and I think America needs that. Everybody is I, me, and every prayer and every speech was about give it to God and get your energy from God.
Yeah, that was really cool. One of the things we were impressed with, we went, we kind of had a game plan. I was going to take on Media Row and the sponsorships and talk about the school and hand out our pamphlets, and Payton was going to take on the student section. He's still a student for another 6 months. He can be considered to be able to have access to that. He was going to take on the student things, and I really didn't pass working and handing things out. I wasn't anticipating really getting to participate in what was going on there. And it was so big. So AmeriFest, I don't know how many years they've been doing it, but this was the first year after Charlie Kirk's assassination. And so it was emotional. There was some sad things that, there was a lot of grief there, but there was a lot of hope. And the messages we one right after another. We got to see people I would never have even known who they were. We got to listen to Ben Carson give a podcast. We heard J.D. Vance speak. Erica Kirk spoke. And then surprising people. Nicki Minaj showed up. And that one was really surprising to us. But there were 31,000 people in Phoenix. And I think one of the things that surprised us most is we're watching the news, and my mom actually called, and she was worried about us because she'd heard about all the protesters and all of this stuff, and we were like, there weren't any protesters. There were like 10 people standing at the gate, and they were awesome. They were just very peacefully protesting. They were having conversations with people. It was very respectful. It wasn't in any way a negative experience with the protesters that were there. And I don't like politics at all, so I wasn't even looking to go for that or to be part of that. I just wanted to be able to talk about our school. And so, what was your take on it all, the student part of it?
The student part of it was not really what I had expected. At an event like this, it's really kind of, you think, oriented toward adults. The over 50% of the student section was actually high school kids. And they were there with just as much energy and excitement and just general purpose as the college kids and anybody out in the just general adult seating. And I thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah.
Well, I think not just Charlie Kirk, but after Charlie Kirk, I think we realized that the younger generation has to be involved. And I think these high school kids are starting to realize, well, if we don't get involved, who will?
Yeah.
Our country needs kind, smart, and more than ever, honest, God-fearing politicians. And the older generation is not that anymore. They're getting old. The system is broken. And it's these young high schoolers and college kids that can make America a good place and keep it a great place to live.
Yeah, it was encouraging. I don't know the ratio of high school students to the rest of the student population and the adults in the building, but it was incredible. There was a lot of energy, lots of normal high school kids stuff, but they were really taking it in. It was interesting to see how many. One of Charlie Kirk's big things was to be a self-learner, He didn't go to college. He read books. He had book lists, and I heard more than a couple times kids talking about those book lists, and then the sponsorship hall during the podcast talking about the different books that they'd read, and they're like 16 years old and they're already seeking that knowledge and really trying to dig into our country's history and dig into the Bible and challenge each other spiritually. And another thing that was kind of cool to me is at that event you would think maybe everybody would be like-minded, and that wasn't the case. There were all kinds of varieties of faith there. There were different people that, there were the pro-Palestine people, there were the pro-Jewish people, there were Christians, there were Muslims, there were different branches of Christianity that were represented there, and they were debating, but they was so kind and respectful even in their conversation, and it was really encouraging to see that, because it wasn't hostile, it wasn't rude, it was just kind of even intrigued, like, I want to understand you, so I want to know what you're talking about. I want to be able to get why you think what you think, and be able to have a conversation from where I believe and challenge what my own beliefs are. And so I was really excited to see that part of it.
Yeah, I think the divisiveness in America is media driven, and I think when you get people together, we can disagree.
Yeah.
Even families, even our big family with foster kids and adopted kids and all that, we disagree on certain issues, and we're human. We should be able to disagree on those, talk about them, and even if you never come to agreement, that's okay. We agree to disagree is an okay comment, and that's bringing up Tucker Carlson and Ben Shapiro. They totally disagree on half the things they talk about, but that's okay, as long as their intentions are good.
And that was kind of Charlie's whole platform. His thing was, we might not agree, but we're gonna talk about it. Because when the conversation stops, that's where the violence begins.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they had the Prove Me Wrong tent, is that what it was called? And it was set up in the middle of everything, and the only one I didn't stay for was Erica Kirk, because the room got so packed that I couldn't move. There were people cramming in on every side. I have no idea how many people fit in that room, but I was leaving it because it was just too crowded. And I listened from the hallway, and she did a fantastic job. She was very composed. She was very graceful. And that's actually something we kind of wanted to touch on, is as we're present, we're living, and we're in this moment with these, we're experiencing this event. But then we would go back to the hotel at night and we would read the headlines, and we're like, that's not at all what they said, or that's not at all what our experience was. It was so funny to hear the headlines versus what we literally had experienced and were witnessing with our own eyes. So we kind of wanted to, because we're Porch Light for the Prodigal, we really wanted to talk about that piece of it for a little bit. Something that's so cool, our country has made a shift for sure. And I don't know if it was before Charlie Kirk's assassination, if it was COVID. I don't know if people are just hungry and they're trying to find purpose or meaning. But there has been a shift where people are seeking God. And there were many of these people who have recently, in the last couple of years, have come out and said, like, man, I used to think this, and have just done a total 180. Tucker Carlson being one of them. He says very openly, I am like the worst Christian. Don't ever listen to me. Don't follow me. I'm as bad as they come, but I believe in this Jesus, and I'm reading my Bible every day, and I'm following him. And it was something that I heard over and over and over. I heard it in our vice president. I heard it in
Glenn Beck.
Glenn
was
Beck.
very clear. Do not follow us up on the stage. We are nothing special. Follow your heart and follow Jesus.
Yeah, follow Jesus. And he kept saying, there is a God and we are not him, so follow him. Figure out what it is you need to follow and dig into it with both hands, and this is just to be hopeful and inspirational. Jesse Waters was another one. He's a funny character, but he's like so fresh to even talking about God. You can tell he's a little bit uncomfortable because he doesn't know maybe what he even believes, but he talked about how he's in a Bible study with two other people. One of them is...
Two of them from the Five.
Yeah.
Greg Gutfeld and one of those other guys.
He's with the opposite guy, right?
Yeah.
The Democrat guy that's on the Five, and he talks about how every morning they have this Bible study, they do it together, and then they text back and forth and talk about it. And it's just really cool to see people who don't really know even, but they're just digging. They want to know more. They want to understand more. Russell Brand was my favorite. I love to listen to him. He's insanely smart. His vocabulary is off the charts big, and he can talk forever, and you really have to listen because his accent is so thick. And but he made us laugh. He made us cry. His story is very powerful, and if you know where he came from, and to see where he's at now, and he's so in tune to what he's wanting to do for God, but he's very intentional about how he's living his life so that he doesn't slip back into the old ways, because he knows it's a struggle for him. He talks about his addiction.
Yeah, and he is as humbled as a person can be because he knows he had a extremely rough past.
And it was very public.
Yeah, very public. And he feels sorrow for who he's hurt in the past. So it's pretty easy for a person to sit back and judge someone like that. Well, who do you think you are trying to be Christian now? Look what you've done to this person, and look what you've said. Well, none of us are all the way lost.
And I think that's what we kind of wanted to be able to touch on, is like, we're not endorsing these people as anything other than what we saw in a weekend, in a snapshot at a convention. But what we saw is people who are seeking God, who are very, very open and honest about the fact that they don't have it all together. And then to be able to, on the way home, as we're talking about it and we're kind of processing everything, realizing that how do we support people that are, everybody thinks celebrities just, they have it together. We judge them very easily because we've seen where they've been, we've seen what they've done, those public things, the arrests, the mistakes, the drugs, all of it. We've seen all that on the headlines, and so it's easy to judge and be like, I don't really know if I believe them, or if they're actually if this is just for clickbait, or if this is just a gimmick so that people will pay attention to them.
I think people behind the cameras don't seem like real humans to us for some reason.
Yeah.
They seem unhuman, and which in turn then everybody is pretty easy to get online and say horrible, horrible things. Like Erica Kirk is a huge debate in our country right now, which actually took me by surprise. She's a completely grieving wife. To me, where my heart is, I watch her doing the best she absolutely can to do what Charli would have wanted her to do, and she is getting nailed. I mean, people are saying terrible things about her, and in my heart, if it was a popular, let's say, liberal person, and their husband died, I would never have it in my heart to judge that person. But it's so easy for everybody to...
There's some things, you put aside politics and party lines. I mean, regardless of what you thought of the guy, there's nothing to celebrate in murder.
Absolutely.
And especially, there's nothing human about poking fun or even trying to implicate a grieving widow. Like, that's just foul.
Which was Nicki Minaj's platform too, right?
Yeah.
The persecution and murdering of Christians in Nigeria.
Yeah.
And she's had tons of backlash, and I would have never expected her to come out and say what she did and be at that event, but she was convicted enough. I could see that, you know, the Holy Spirit had touched her heart. These people are being killed for no reason, regardless of what you believe. This is not right.
And I would very humbly say, like, I am guilty of being the judgmental person, because we knew there was going to be a surprise speaker. I had my lineup of who I thought the speaker was going to be, and when she walked out on stage, I was like, what? Like, how in the world is this going to play out? And to my own discredit, like, who do I think I am?
Yeah.
I was judging her before I even had any idea what was going to come out of her mouth. I don't know anything about the woman. I've seen her on a couple movies, and I know she's a rapper. But, like, who do I think I am to judge? And then my favorite part, I love to watch people. I like to, for me, watching people's body language and their facial expressions and how they tug at their clothes and just different things, it all is indicative of what they're feeling on the inside, no matter what's coming out of their mouth or how poised they are on stage. And the part I liked about Nicki Minaj is she accidentally said something that she didn't mean to say. It's like a slang, and when she said it, she covered her mouth and her eyes filled up with tears, and there was this moment where there's 30,000 people. You don't get to undo the thing you just said on stage in front of the camera, and you could just see her be like, she didn't know which way to go, and she was sitting on the stage with Erica Kirk, and Erica very graciously came in and kind of saved her from that moment, and she said, it's okay. People walk on eggshells with vocabulary because they don't want to upset her husband's freshly buried, and the way Nicki said, she used the word assassin. She didn't mean it the way it came out, but the way that it was portrayed and the way Erica came in, it was so human in the vulnerability that these two women had sitting on stage. It was very touching to witness it, because you could just feel everybody be like, and the whole place was still. And I like that she was campaigning for these Christians that are not, that are being killed in other places. And she said, I have not lived a good life, and I have had a hard time. Hollywood beat me up, but I'm trying so hard to come back from that. And so
I remember when she got really quiet for almost was an awkward minute, and then she said, people can change.
People can change.
We have to remember that.
And she grew up. She talked about her childhood going to church with her grandmother, and she knew the truth. She said she was baptized when she was 13. She knew God at one point, and then just life. And she said just life. And I would imagine, I have no concept what a life like hers in the busy pace of Hollywood and the pressure and all of that might lead to.
Absolutely.
But the fact that she's seeking God and she's trying to hang on to Him, it's not going to look polished. It's not going to look churched. It's not going to look beautiful. And that really doesn't matter, because it's not up to me to decide what it should look like for her. But the fact that she's seeking it and she's hanging on to the hem of God, and the one thing she said, Erica asked her, you're taking a lot of backlash for speaking out about God? And she said, am I? She's like, it doesn't even matter. It's not that she's losing money. It doesn't matter that maybe people won't buy her records, or she won't have sponsorships that she had before. Believing in God is so much bigger, and she's very aware of that and very vocal about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
No longer lukewarm.
No, not lukewarm.
Right.
And
I mean, I've been there, right? I've worked at places where I'll, kind of not necessarily be ashamed, but kind of keep my faith.
Church it down a little bit.
Yeah, like keep my faith to myself, and not feel as though I can speak freely about what I think or whatever, because I'm getting paid here, and employers, they don't believe, or they don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Or you think other people won't like the music you listen to, and in the last couple of years, I've just gotten to that point where I'm like, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to share it with you, whether you want to hear it or not.
Yeah, this is happening.
yeah, and money and followers doesn't matter. And I was really touched by all of her stuff, and I had to dig around, because you only see bits that they wanted you to see, and it took me a while to get her whole segment pieced together, but it was good.
Yeah, it was really beautiful. Another one that recently came up was Justin Bieber. He posted a thing at Christmas time, and he talked about how he doesn't want to be a victim. He doesn't want retribution. He's not looking for retaliation of any kind, but he said, man, my childhood was a rough scene. And he knew God, and now he's married, and he's got a baby, and he's trying to come back, and he is hanging on to God with everything he has. But you can see on him, he looks healthier. He just looks healthier and happier, and the fact that he's publicly speaking out about it is another one that people are really judgmental. There's so much in the headlines, and we got to watch this young man grow up. I remember watching him when he was probably 8 or 9 years old on YouTube. My girls thought he was so funny and adorable and all of the things, and we watched this little boy grow up very publicly, and he publicly made his mistakes, and he publicly went through heartache, and he publicly struggled, and now that he's publicly coming back to God, he's being criticized for it, and not always criticized by the people you would anticipate. Some of the criticism is coming from other Christians who are questioning if it's real, or questioning if he's doing it right. And
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's what caught me off guard on the way back from the festival is I wasn't seeing a ton of not Christians judge. I was seeing local Christians judge these people, and harshly. Like, who do they think they are? And I was like, wow, they're missing the story of Jesus. Like,
Yeah.
And to me, that comes back to Jesus' conversation with the woman caught in adultery. Like Jewish law, if you're caught in adultery, you're put to death. And she's surrounded by people with stones. And the conversation is, okay, whichever one of you is without sin, fling the first one. There was no one. No one could say anything. So if you've got somebody who is turning their life around and they're coming to Christ, if you're going to be the person in their way or the person that's saying something foul about them being a stumbling block, God's not going to look kindly on that.
Absolutely not. I mean, really the simplest thing to do at that point is pray for them.
And that's all you should do to begin with. And rejoice with the entire host of heaven that one of the lost sheep has found their way back.
And Luke 5, verse 31, Jesus answered them, healthy people don't need a doctor, sick people do. I have come to call not those who think they are righteous, but those who know they are sinners and need to repent. We all are sinners, and Charlie, you said earlier, you judge, I judge. Sometimes I catch myself, and internally I'm like, really, Lucas? Like, we gotta
Walk it back.
And
walk it back.
that's very human. Like your eyes see, your brain makes the instant little like lizard brain connection there, where it's like just instinctually, that's what that is. And then you gotta like walk it back with your spirit.
Absolutely.
That was crappy. I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
And I like what you said is we put them on a platform where they're somehow not human, like they're not real, and every single person has a story behind them. I don't know all these stories, but every single person is looking to fill that hole or looking to put something in that. And we watch it all the time. We see it with our local friends and family. We see it on celebrity status. These people that are trying to fill themselves or make themselves perfect enough. And it's so simple to just be able to turn to God and hang on to Him. And on the celebrity side, sometimes I think it's easier to judge that because everything media-wise seems so fake. It seems staged or pretentious or whatever, but you almost can't figure out that that's an actual real human being. And when we were talking about Erica Kirk and the assassination, I can't even hardly watch her without crying because I could only imagine if Lucas was gone, and we talked a little bit about this, if all of a sudden something horrible happened to him and he wasn't here, what would my responsibility be? We still have a company to run. I would have to figure out how to run a plumbing company, hold the school together, and I still have all these children to raise and a home to run. Like, when you're a mom like that and you've got all these responsibilities and employees and people counting on you, you don't have the luxury, no matter what the circumstance, how awful it is, you don't get to just crawl into bed forever.
And let's say she wanted to crawl into bed. Maybe her way of grieving is burying herself in her husband's work. People are like, well, how can she be out there on these media tours and doing all this stuff? She should be home with her kids. Well, that's maybe her way of getting through this hardest part of her life, is dumping herself and her work into Charlie's work.
Yeah.
And
we don't know.
And she said as much pretty early on. She was like, this is how I'm honoring my husband in our family. If you make a commitment, you follow through. And so she's out there following through on all the things that he committed himself to. So to honor his memory in that way. And there's probably a decent portion of grief that goes into that.
And I think another thing, including, like, this is really at me too, is we're not used to seeing people as strong in their faith as Erica Kirk. So her behavior to us as kind of wimpy Christians, kind of when life gets tough, we're not as, to be honest, I'm not as tough as her. We watch and we're like, what's going on here? It takes us back. Like, is this all about money? But really, who are we to judge? It's just a grieving woman doing her best.
And grief is funny. You don't get to put a definition on it. Everybody grieves differently, and grief a lot of times is rooted in where your faith is and where your mission is in that moment, and there's not a right or a wrong answer. Grief is just grief, and there's not a perfect way to do it. And something that we saw in almost every single speaker is that grief. That lineup of cast of speakers, Charli handpicked those speakers before Erica followed through with it. There's only been 3 months, so they didn't plan this event in 3 months. This has been a year in the making. And so every one of those speakers had been personally asked by Charlie Kirk to be there. And she honored that lineup because that's what he had asked her to do. And so there was an element of grief in every speaker, because every single one of them that came on stage, that he was my friend. And so there was a loss even on a friendship level for the people that had to speak. And they talked about, everyone talked about Charlie Kirk in a piece of it, but really the mission was hope-filled. It was very much forward motion. We still have things to do. You can't undo what's been done, so like, how are we going to hang on to God moving forward? It was a message of a lot of hope and a lot of peace, and so really trying to figure out how do we respond to that was something that we talked about a lot on the way home. Mm-hmm. What is our response? Bryce Crawford, he's a young man that my kids knew. I didn't know who he was until I had to look him up because the kids told me about him, and man, that kid is on fire for God, and he reminds me of one of those things you wind up and it like bounces all over the place, because he was all over that stage. But one of the things he said is like, okay, this has happened, but what are you going to do about it? You're sitting in this audience with all of these people. You have this opportunity to hear all of these messages and be inspired and hear great prayers and hear great sermons. And what are you going to do with it? Are you just going to take it in this moment and be like, wow, that was really cool, and then go home and nothing changes? Or are you going to use that inspiration to light a fire in you to do something with it? And so we talked a lot. What are we going to do with this thing? Because we live in this little tiny town, and we work probably too much, and we spend a lot of time pouring and pouring and pouring. And sometimes we have to go away to get filled up, and we needed that. We didn't even realize we needed it. And so we are coming back with some fresh insights. Again, I needed to be humbled. I needed to have the kind of the face slap, like, don't be judgmental. You don't know these people. And I really have been intentionally praying for the Nicki Minaj's, the Justin Bieber's, all of these people, Jesse Waters, Tucker Carlson, the rift between them.
I think we pray for everybody that's new Christians, but the thing about these people is they have huge platforms, mm-hmm. so they can reach the younger generation through that platform. Mm-hmm. Us, we can plant little seeds all over our community, that's our job, mm-hmm. but these people can plant millions of seeds. So if you start changing the Christian mind from these people with huge microphones, it mm-hmm. might just change the world. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a very positive thing to.
And I feel like our issues are not as hard to overcome as theirs. Like what am I overcoming? Nobody's yelling at me for being a Christian. Nobody's mad at us. Like we get the smallest amount of backlash for being Christians in our community, and it's almost embarrassing to say that we get backlash when churches in Africa, they're getting slaughtered. Like, I don't get to say I have backlash. Yeah. That's embarrassing. Yeah. And so how am I going to take that? How am I going to take this moment and be bold and be brave and spread Jesus and influence this community? This is my bubble. But like you said, those people have headlines to overcome. People who want to cancel them and shut them down. And like, it's not even the same reality that I live in. Now, who was our favorite? Who was your favorite? What was your best part of the trip?
Oh, that is so hard. But I can pick one statement from Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck is actually not one of my favorite podcasters, media people, because he really goes into clickbait, doomsday kind of stuff a lot. So I'm like, I watch him and I'm like uneasy. So I really like inspirational type of podcasters, but he went up there and was very inspirational, and what he was what he said, and is so important, is don't look up on the stage and think we are any better or have any more intelligence, or it's like, you kids, you do it.
Mm-hmm.
You study, you read, don't be a victim. You have all the information on your phone. Learn it. Create your own platform. And I like that for the younger generation, and even our generation, because there's a lot of victims now.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody thinks their life was hard, and the American economy is harder now. It's harder to buy our first house, and all that is true.
Yeah.
But you can succeed, and if you get your energy and your strength from God, and you just plow forward, fall down, get back up, fall down, get back up, you will succeed. And I think Glenn Beck did a way better job of how I just said it, of giving the kids hope and energy.
Mm-hmm. How about you?
I mean, it feels like kind of a easy cop-out answer, but I really liked Bryce Crawford and Keenan Clark, I believe was his name. They both kind of just fell in line with the same thing. It's like, tomorrow's not given, and if we are living this life in the way we're called to live it, then we should be just relentlessly spewing gospel to everyone that we can even run into at the grocery store.
Yeah.
Because who knows, you might be the only person that's going to say something to them, and at the end of times where everything's going to be accounted for, you don't want to be the person that had an opportunity to shepherd somebody to heaven and you chose to keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
That weighs very heavy when you think of it in those terms.
Yeah, absolutely. I think mine was more, I enjoyed everybody for sure. I was inspired at how Erica Kirk holds herself just in her grief, and she was so gracious, and she was so kind and gracious to the people that were on stage, even in their mistakes and in their shortcomings, and she was very gracious to that. But I love Russell Brand. He's funny. He's so raw. He's so real. He doesn't try to be something he's not. He very openly is like, man, I'm fighting this battle, and like, I want to do this thing, but I said I'm going to follow God, so I can't do that thing. So you can almost watch him play the tug of war within himself as he's trying to be more godly as he moves on. And man, that guy knows his Bible. He is reading it all the time and quoting it, and he can talk about all the different stories. Like, I need to be better about that. And so it kind of leads us to the last question for today. What are you going to do? What are you going to do to take from that and put something into action? What's your action plan?
Well, I think I'm a very young Christian. I grew up Catholic, which was going to church and hating it, and my parents tried to be good people, but they didn't know how to be Christians. So I'm a very new Christian. My mom is now too. So I'm not filled with the absolute knowledge of this book, but I'm sure getting a good start of it. But what I've decided to do is, I've always said I'm not ready yet to spread the word, or I'm not ready yet to be outspoken about being all about Jesus, but I am now. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to be over the top aggressive with people, because I don't think anywhere you read in the Bible, Jesus wasn't like that. He didn't throw the Bible at your face, but I am ready to talk to people about Jesus and spread the word and do my part as creating new disciples, because that is literally the one task we have to do, is make heaven crowded.
Yeah, I love that saying. What's your action plan?
Real similar to Lucas. I mean, I've been a saved Christian for a long time. I got baptized pretty young, but you don't, through the course of this journey, you don't always live your faith properly, and I can admit to that. But now, if I can start kind of intentionally curating what I fill my mind with, what I fill my spare time with, spend more time in the Bible, and get enough familiarity and knowledge that I can speak it with confidence to people in a way that is not only loving but intelligent, something that they can understand, then people will be more inclined to listen and maybe ask questions and seek their own understanding. So that's my plan.
I know you got all the secondhand version, but what would your action plan be?
Probably along the same lines, because my favorite speaker also was Bryce Crawford, and not so much for what he said at AmFest, but just what I've heard in the last couple of years, and he's the reason, like he talks about being unapologetic about sharing with people, and I believe one time I heard him say the words, "You may be the only Bible somebody reads today." And so Lucas and I have talked about it not that long ago. I asked somebody if I could pray for them in public, and that used to make me uncomfortable, but because of listening to things that he's talked about. And so what I gather from it is to be no fear, unapologetic. I'm going to share this stuff with people. It's the same with sharing the mission of the school, right? Some people are going to receive it well, but I don't get to decide that, right? I should share it anyways. I can't be like, they're not going to like this, they're not going to believe this. You know, look at what Jesus endured, and he shared the message anyways.
Yeah.
Right.
And we saw Willie Robertson speak. He's really down to earth, and I love that because I have a hard time understanding confusing. So he's so down to earth and so simple. And he said, everybody goes out and says, "Well, I'll pray for you." Well, he says, don't say that anymore. Pray with them right when you meet them.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to pray with you right now. People are taken back by that, but most of them won't say no, and it doesn't hurt to ask.
Even if they disagree and are on the other side. I've watched Bryce pray with people that, you know, you would have never thought, all the piercings, the black, the crazy stuff, and they're like just in awe. And a lot of them leave not completely convinced, but just knowing that he cared enough about them to do it right there in that moment, you know. Like, so.
We have a student at the school that kind of dresses the goth look, you know, and pretty much she stiff arms me 90% of the time, but just it's been about a year and a half now, and she's finally, I got a hug out of her this last week. That was kind of a big deal to me because that's little, but this girl would glare daggers through me most days, and so I got a hug finally. And so it's the little things, it's just being consistent, showing up for people. And again, just the humility of realizing that you don't have all the answers, and I don't have to have all the answers, but really honestly taking people where they're at, and even the celebrities. So I spend so much time, my brain is always in 100% marketing go mode for the school, and sometimes I forget that there's behind all these businesses that I'm reaching out to, that there's humans, and that part really was something that I needed to be reminded of this weekend. And so I reached out to many of them personally and just said, I'm very proud of you. I see you. I see that you have taken major steps, and just know that while we're little and we're in North Idaho and we probably are very inconsequential, we're praying for you. And so being able to know that just there's encouragement even in celebrity status, I'd probably bet they don't get a ton of that.
Absolutely.
So anyway, that's kind of was our AmFest trip. It was an amazing experience. I would encourage people to experience it for yourself, and then if you still hate it or you want to decide, then that's awesome, but at least you experienced it for yourself.
Absolutely.
We've had the opportunity to really take a few things in where I think if I'd have read the headlines, I probably would have avoided it, but the experience was very rich, and we all got to spend time together. That was awesome. And then being able to grow together and process all of the things we learned, it's been very powerful. So I encourage you to do the same. I'm very thankful for you joining us today on Porch Light for the Prodigal, and thanks to Dustin and Lucas, Dustin's over there, Lucas, Payton, and thanks for joining us. We want to hear your prodigal stories too. So at our website, www.foundationsK12school.org, there's an email link in there, and if you ever want to share your story, we'll share them online. So just please tell us what your story is. Let us pray for you. We're going to have a running prayer list that will be actively prayed over. So please share with us, and we look forward to hearing your journey. Thank you for joining us on Porch Light for the Prodigal.